This is the story of a birth, a life, and a death. It's about a game that was supposed to be a groovy, gore-filled celebration, one that finally did justice to one of horror's most beloved franchises. With the iconic Bruce Campbell back on the mic and a blockbuster launch that sold over 500,000 copies in just 5 days, Evil Dead the game was born a certified hit. It was perfectly positioned to become the next asymmetrical horror obsession, a line I find myself saying over and over with these videos. It was a bloody crown jewel for fans who'd waited decades for this. So how did a game with so much promise, a passionate community, and a Hail to the King launch end up with no new content, a cancelled Switch port, and getting pulled from digital stores? This is the birth, life, and death of Evil Dead the game. When Evil Dead the game was announced at the Game Awards in 2020, the horror community went nuts. For years, the asymmetrical horror genre has been dominated by Dead by Daylight, a game that I've talked about a lot on this channel. Plenty of games had tried to challenge its throne, but Evil Dead felt different. It was conceived to be more than a clone by embracing the property's unique mix of horror, comedy, and action. Comedy was the big one that set it apart from its failed competition. Developed by Saber Interactive and Boss Team Games, the project was ripping with authenticity. They aimed to resurrect the franchise's very soul, bringing back original cast members and, of course, the king himself, Bruce Campbell. The premise was a 4v1 showdown, where 4 survivors team up against a player-controlled Kandarian demon. Survivors would loot for gear and manage their rising fear levels, while the demon would possess deadites, set traps, and even possess the survivors themselves. That survivor possession mechanic is really what made the game stand out for me from a gameplay perspective. By the time it was born on May 13th, 2022, the hype was palpable. And for a while, its life was glorious. Evil Dead the game nailed the atmosphere and felt like pure fan service. Gameplay loop was addictive. Unlike its competitors, Evil Dead gave survivors a real fighting chance, shifting the focus to aggressive team-based combat with a huge arsenal of weapons and a solid skill tree system. Playing as the demon was a unique kind of power trip because of the gameplay that we're going to go into later. Reviews were generally positive, and the launch was so massive the developers had to scramble for more server capacity. It's normally a good sign. For a glorious honeymoon period, it seemed Evil Dead the game had carved out its own space in a brutal genre. The objective for the survivor team was a multi-stage affair. First, you and your 3 teammates had to scavenge one of the game's large maps to find 3 pieces of a map. Once collected, these would reveal the locations of 2 key items from the franchise, the Kandarian dagger and the lost pages of the Necronomicon. After securing both, the team had to defeat a group of powerful demons, called the Dark Ones, before a final timed event where you protected the Necronomicon from being destroyed. This structure made the survivor experience feel like a desperate, action-packed adventure. Instead of just repairing generators and hiding, you were consistently on the move, looting better weapons, managing your ammo, and sticking together to keep your fear levels down. A high fear level would make you an easy target for the demon player, who could possess you and turn your own shotgun against your friends. It was this focus on combat and teamwork that made playing Survivor so thrilling. And on the other side, playing as the Kandarian demon was an exercise in psychological warfare. You were a disembodied evil spirit, flying through the woods and setting traps to raise the survivor's fear. As you gathered power, you could possess deadites, trees, and even things like cars to attack them directly. The ultimate power trip was possessing a survivor and using their own abilities to dismantle the team from within. It was a strategic and chaotic role that truly made you feel like the villain of an Evil Dead movie. I genuinely liked the gameplay loop for both sides, which is what makes the rest of this video more depressing. The honeymoon didn't last. As the initial excitement faded, the community started to notice fundamental problems. The core gameplay, fun as it was, suffered from severe balancing issues, as all new asymmetrical games seem to do. In the early days, certain survivor teams felt almost invincible, leaving demon players absolutely frustrated. On the flip side, a high-level demon could demolish newcomers, making it a brutal experience for new players. This is a problem we see over and over in the genre. The solo player is normally more powerful if nobody knows what they're doing, but if all players are skilled and know what they're doing, the team of 4 often stomps the one. Bugs and server issues also began to sour the experience, with players reporting everything from infinite loading screens to constant minor glitches. And while the launch maps were beautiful, they felt limited. A third map, based on Army of Darkness, arrived a couple of months later in July 2022, but for a live service game, this small map pool quickly made things feel repetitive. Another major point of contention was the PC exclusivity on the Epic Games Store, something that really drove a nail in my respect for the game. While a common business move at the time, it fractured the potential player base from day one. Player numbers, which had exploded at launch, began a steady decline. The game was still alive, but the lack of variety, persistent bugs, and balancing headaches were starting to take their toll. It's a frustrating cycle we see with these kinds of games, and it's a topic that I'd love to discuss with you all. So before we get into the final part of this story, I just want to say that I'm a small creator, and I genuinely try to read every single comment you leave for me. On top of that, every like and every sub helps me out a ton and allows me to keep making these videos. So if you're enjoying this deep dive, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks so much for the support, and now let's get back into this Evil Dead dissection. To be fair, the developers did try to support the game. In the first year, they rolled out updates with new characters like Mia and David from the 2013 film, and a new Plaguebringer demon class. The Army of Darkness update in July 2022 was a high point, delivering the much-anticipated Castle Kandar map for free. But the pace felt glacial to a community starving for more, and core problems with balance and bugs persisted through multiple patches. Then came the questionable decisions. In February 2023, Saber released the Splatter Royale, a 40-player battle royale mode in this 1v4 ASIM. The community was baffled. Players had been begging for more maps and demons for the core 4v1 experience. Instead, they got a mode that stretched the game's identity and split the already shrinking player base. Asymmetrical games are popular, in large part because of the unique 4v1 system. It felt like the developers were giving up on that and trying to pull in other players for a totally different game. A month later, the game finally launched on Steam on April 26, 2023. But the initial hype was a fading memory, and the game's reputation for being buggy and light on content had already set in. The Steam launch, it didn't bring in the hoped-for wave of new players. The final gut-wrenching broken promise was the Nintendo Switch port. Announced early on, it offered the hope of a new platform and player base, but months turned into a year with almost no news. The end came quickly and without ceremony. On September 19th, 2023, just 16 months after its celebrated birth, Saber Interactive announced that they were stopping all new content development. In the same breath, they confirmed the long-promised Nintendo Switch version was officially cancelled. While Saber never gave an official reason, the move was widely blamed on the massive restructuring at their parent company, Embracer Group. After a reported $2 billion deal fell through, Embracer began shutting down studios and canceling projects to cut costs. A licensed title with a dwindling player base was an easy target for trimming the fat. For the community that had stuck it out, it felt like a betrayal. Many players now refuse to support anything made by Saber or Embracer Group because of it. Saber promised to keep the servers online for the foreseeable future, but the phrase felt more like a ticking clock. In March 2024, they permanently turned on Double XP, a classic last-ditch effort to keep remaining players engaged. But the message was clear: the party was ending. The final shoe dropped around May 2025, when the game was officially removed from all digital storefronts, making it impossible for new players to join. From a blockbuster birth to a digital ghost town, the story of Evil Dead the game is yet another cautionary tale about potential squandered by inconsistent content, questionable priorities, and the cold reality of corporate restructuring. The game that was supposed to be a love letter became just another line item in a portfolio correction for Embracer Group. But for those who were there, the memory of what it was remains. The thrill of surviving an onslaught with friends, the joy of hearing a perfectly timed groovy from Ash, and that brief, shining moment where it felt like this game was truly going to be the next big thing. or at least sit side by side with the likes of Dead by Daylight. It wasn't perfect, but it had a heart and soul many of its competitors lacked. It deserved a longer life, in my opinion. What are your memories of Evil Dead the game? What do you think was the biggest reason for its death? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoy these deep dives into the games that time forgot, be sure to subscribe for more. Like I always do, I want to include a section here at the end of my video thanking my fantastic channel members. With your help, we've donated over $800 to my local animal rescues, with much more to come. When I set up my membership program, I decided that 100% of all my membership income would be donated to my local animal shelters, a decision that I've never regretted and that we carry on today. If you want to join my amazing members and help an animal in need, you can participate in the membership program for as little as $2 a month. Again, thank you all for being amazing. But that's all I have for you. As always, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you around.